like to discuss the process of going through the pitch and bat assignment from beginning to end, focusing primarily on the strengthening of your poses. I've come up with two layouts. The first one is for my pitch scene, and I've chosen to do this with a pair of mice inside their mouse hole, and so that's why I have the little miniature furniture over here and a little spoon with the holes in it. You can see the edge of the mouse hole over here. So we're actually inside between the two walls. I've got the studs and wall there. So this is for the pitch scene. The pitcher's mound is here. And then over on this side is the batter scene, where I'll have the one mouse over here standing on the mouse trap. Again, another mouse hole. This is just sort of stretched out where the two could possibly attach right there, but I've got two separate horizon lines. This one here has a higher horizon line up around here, so that when the character is standing, it's at his chest level. He's a little bit of a taller character, and for this scene here, the second mouse is a little bit smaller, so I've lowered the horizon line on this scene here. So I'd like you to, when you're doing this assignment, to come up with a fairly substantial background, something that's going to inform the viewer as to what it is exactly we're looking at, the point of view that we're looking at, and where exactly we are. So don't just put like for the pitching, don't just put a little lump and a line for the ground, and similarly for the batter's cage, don't just put a little square down here with a couple of lines going off. Give it something of an environment. So whether it's a playground, a backyard with a house behind it, or some trees or something like that, or an actual baseball stadium with the stands and various other things that go with it, the dugout, etc., etc. Put that stuff in to actually make it look like a meaty three-dimensional background so that your characters will fit in. So we'll start off with the pitch scene, and for this scene I have a series of poses that I scribbled up fairly quickly. I start off with my first key position with the mouse standing on the mound over here. And these drawings are very, very quick drawings. They're about 5 minutes to complete them. And this is my tall mouse in his ready position. And then what he'll do is he'll anticipate. And I've done a series of different anticipations here, bringing the character up with the leg first, having the head move slightly down and back, and bring the arms up. And then my second anticipation is where I kick the character over, bringing the leg up and transferring the weight over behind the character. Then my third pose is planting the foot down, or at least extending the foot down and starting to stretch the character out in this direction here, with the ball going back into its extrememost position behind the character, and then pulling through this position here with a step forward, transfer of weight, seaweed over, and into the follow-through action on the end. And then what I'll do is I'll cut from this scene immediately to this scene here, where we have the batter, the shorter mouse, standing on the mouse trap here, with his one foot on the spring here, the other foot is on the back edge there, in the ready position. Then he'll anticipate by going up and back into this position here, bringing his foot up, then stepping forward and swinging through, and following through to the end of the swing on the opposite side and stepping forward. Again, same seaweed action moving forward. And then as my conclusion, when he steps down here, he's going to step on the trigger for the mouse trap here, which will then snap over top of him and basically kill him, more or less. And that'll be the end of the shot. So those are my two scenes sort of blocked out. These are my layout poses. They're not actual animation poses, they're just my layout poses, just to get a general sense of where my character is going from and to give myself an idea of how far over the character is going to come and go. So what I want to do with this video is I want to go through the process of taking my initial poses that I've done here in the layout stage and starting to push them a little bit further. I'm talking about the idea of going to more of an extreme position and exaggerating the poses just a little bit more to get more of an attitude out of the characters. So the first thing you have to understand is like who are the characters and what is their relationship to each other, and what is this game of baseball that they're playing between the two of them, and is it for high stakes or is it just for fun? Is he trying to teach the other mouse how to pitch? Is there some animosity between the two of them? What is their attitude? And this is sort of the direction I want you to go in with this this stage of your animation education. Is start to think about who the characters are and what's their motivation and why are they doing what they're doing. This will help with the attitude of the poses. So when we start to talk about pushing the pose, this is what I'm talking about here, is the idea of thinking who is this guy and how does he feel about the other character, and that will push the pose in a different way. So if the character was more friendly towards the other mouse, he might present his body towards him a little bit more and sort of hunch over. So let's just take a drawing of that. So what we might do is have the body of the character here like this and push the chest forward more into this type of a position. The feet over and in front, maybe the knees coming forward like this. And possibly even hunching over the shoulders a little bit more. And presenting the ball, not clutching the ball quite as hard in his hand. Something more like this. And then perhaps curling over the neck just a little bit here. And even tilting the head just a little bit, putting the eye line on an angle like this so he's a little bit more friendly. And of course the expression of the face will make a huge difference as well. You've got more of a smile. Here you go. And keeping the eyes bright and open. And the pupils fairly large. And then keep the ears perked up. He's excited to throw the ball to him. So something like that. Has a less threatening attitude than this pose here. Of course, I've changed the proportions on them a little bit. But again, these are just very, very quick sketches to get a general sense of the attitude of the character. So if I was to change this again, and let's say we're going to keep this angry attitude that we've got here, what I could do is, by the idea of pushing the pose a little bit further, is taking the pre-existing drawing that I've started off with like this, and thinking of ways to maybe make it a little bit more aggressive. So what I could do is I could pull this character up and over in this direction here a little bit, like he's pulling the ball away a little bit more and sort of lifting his chest. So if I was to draw maybe a little bit more structurally, I'd have his rib cage here like this with his chest turned away and down into his belly here, so that pulling everything away in this direction like this. And down into the foot here in the same position, and keeping this foot here back on the back side of the spoon, so that's in the same position as well. And maybe just angling the knee out here with a little bit more weight over top of the foot there. So what this does is it sort of just tilts the character over just a little bit more here. And then if I was to hunch the shoulder over just a little bit more here, and bring the arm up and away, like he's trying to hide the position of the ball a little bit more. And the same with his arm over here. course, it's the other hand here that's actually gripping the ball, so these fingers would actually go over top of the other hand there, so I'd have to extend these up and over, wrap around the other hand inside there. Maybe the thumb on this side here. And then what I could do is I could also maybe take the head and just sort of pull it over this way a little bit more, so his neck is being pulled quite a bit, and putting the head down here a little bit. So it's actually going behind his body, which is not anatomically correct necessarily, but just gives him more of an aggressive attitude. Again, tilting the head so he's looking down. I had the grimaced mouth here. He's clenching his teeth and then furrowing his brow with the other eye popped up and open, just giving him the eyeball. Perhaps pulling the ears back into more of a sly type of a position there. I could even use this, the eye line right through here, to draw the line across the ear here, and then with this one being pulled up in this direction here, I could open this ear here up a little bit more, so it's pointing straight up and down. So it's a little bit more attentive there, or I could throw it back into the distance over here in perspective. So what this does now is it gives the character a slightly different attitude, a little bit more guarded, and yet a little bit more aggressive here with the head going forward. So this is the idea of what I'm talking about, the idea of pushing your pose. Looking for strong lines of action running through the character, strong S curves running down through here. That's their primary line of action right through there on the back side of the character. So you're looking for those strong lines. S curves coming down through here, C curves. Right. Now, what if I took this same pose now and see if I can push it even further than that? So don't be satisfied with your first drawing. Don't necessarily be satisfied with your second drawing either. Maybe take a little bit of a break, step back away from it, think about it for a little bit, act it out. Go into the pose, look at yourself in a mirror, and see whether or not, obviously you can't put your head behind your body like that, but think of different ways to position the character a little bit more. So let's say I took the same pose now and just reposition the character again, just maybe pulling the chest just a little bit more up like this. So again, my anatomical rib cage would sit here, like this. So it just thrusts it up a little bit higher, which is going to pull on the spine here just a little bit more. Down into the knee there. So that the pelvic girdle of the character is sitting right inside here. The hip down to the knee and then back to the ankle and then into the foot there, coming down over top of the front of the spoon. This will pull the skin here more tight. There's a center line running down into the crotch area there. So this would be the belly line through here and up into the chest. And then what I could do is pull this a little bit more horizontal. There's the armpit. And raise the hand just a little bit higher up here. The other hand grasping the ball here. You just show a little bit more of the actual structure of that hand holding it, with this hand palm going up and over. There's the knuckle of the middle finger. The thumb coming around here. And then finding the other shoulder, what I could possibly do is thrust it out this way just a little bit more. In that direction. You can see how that pulls it even further. So the shoulder on this side would sit up here on this side, and this would be the shoulder line coming across there without the character's head on it. Keeping this side over here the same, the leg here. There's no change in this position, it's the pull in this part here, pushing up and back. Just pulling it up and over that way, and then trying to find the position for the head. Hook it off like this a little bit and separate it away from the body a little bit more. Just set it a little bit higher there. My eye line is this direction. Get my character looking towards the other character across here. And keep that expression. Clench the eye on this side. Keep this one open. Nose. Center line of the nose there. Even maybe pushing the lip out here. The chin coming out a little bit further. So it's more of a pucker type of a pose. Again, keeping the ears down. It creates a stronger silhouette now. Overall, if I was to shade this all in, it would push the pose. You'd be able to read it a little bit better. And I think the head's still in proportion just a little bit big to what I want to have overall. But that's the idea of pushing your pose in this instance here. Now, should I be happy with what I've got here? Not necessarily. I can still go back in here again and maybe push it a little bit further. I mean, you keep going and going and going almost forever. But at some point you've got to sort of cut it off and say, that's enough. I don't think I can go any further with this. So that's what I want you to do with each of your individual poses. Look at each one, think of what you can do with it, how far can you push it further, exaggerate a little bit more. All right? So I've just taken and pushed the pose again twice beyond what I had before. I from this position here to this position here, which you saw before, and now I've pushed it even further into this position here where I've pulled the back down, broken the spine a little bit in order to create more of an angular type feel to it and brought the hands up a little bit further. So again, this is one of those instances where, I mean, you can keep pushing and pushing and pushing over and over and over again until you get your desired effect. It just depends on how far you want to go with it. So again, just keep going until you get to the point where you're happy with what you got, and then move on from there. So these poses now, once I've settled on the one that I want, I can then begin to use these as my rough storytelling poses, and then I can go from there and begin to play around with them and do some thumbnail sketches and plan out how I want my action to play out. So from this point on, once I've got all my storytelling poses in this format here, I begin to break the character down into its most simplest components, and I would treat it in 3 different stages. I would treat the body and the legs as one stage up to the chest. Then I would add on the head, and then I would add on the arms as a secondary action to get all my overlapping stuff going on. So basically this is how I would draw the poses. I'd have my primary shape, which would be the pelvis down here, into my legs, and into the feet, and keeping very, very simple and sketchy, just coming up with a bare minimum to describe what my character looks like. The break in the back here and up into the chest cavity. I might draw the rib cage in there just to understand exactly how it works, and then possibly a center line to describe the rotation of the character once I get into the torque and the twist of the turn. So I would start off with this to begin with. I might indicate a shoulder line right there, the connection point for the shoulder. So I would animate this shape through first, getting all my action through with the torque and twist and the lower torso to the upper torso, and then go back and add in the arms into my overlapping action. Now, you've seen me do thumbnails previously on other assignments, most notably the step up, step down assignment. So I'm just going to go through and show you the basic process of thumbnailing this type of an action here. So I have my storytelling drawings over on the side here, but I'm going to stick to just the very, very basic shapes of what my character is going to be doing throughout the whole action. So I'm going to start off with my first key pose, which was, and again, these are very, very quick gestural sketches that are probably going to take no more than about a minute a piece. I'm thinking in terms of very, very loose, rough positioning. So there's my first key position. And then what I'll do is I'll plan out the action of where the character is going to be going from and to. So from this position here, what I might do is I might anticipate down and forward to get into my anticipation for the anticipation. So bringing everything down and forward in this direction over here. And by doing that, what I might also do is I might overlap this portion here just a little bit to bring this part down and delay this part here. Just a little bit of a weight transfer forward, and then bring everything back in the opposite direction. My chest coming up. And then from there, I carry the character over, possibly with the idea of doing a reversal in this direction here, an S-curve reversal. And so at this point, I'm bringing the character over, and what I'd probably do is bring the knee up here, dragging the foot down, putting all the weight on this side over here. I've got a weight transfer, bring this part up. I can draw little arrows on this just to indicate where I want my different body positions to be going from and to. And then what I can do is I can then snap the character over, but not completely necessarily. What I'll do is I'll bring this portion here like this, and this is where I'm going to bring my leg up, keep it bent, a little bit of a drag here. And then snap it over. And this is when I might possibly kick my heel up all the way. I'm still thinking in terms of the fact that I'll probably still have some overlapping action taking place in the arms. I'm just thinking primarily of the legs going through, and you can see everything sort of shrinking as I go along. That's okay, don't worry about stuff like that, because you're just sort of planning everything out at this stage. So then what I would do is I would then kick the foot, straighten everything out here, get that foot to drag out in this direction, like this. This would be my big downward action, so it would swoop down like this. And then from there, I would begin to pull forward, because I'm going to now plant the foot down. My knee, and I begin to drag my hips forward. So this part here is moving forward as my upper torso drags across in this direction here. So I'm going to now seaweed the whole thing over. So you drag the chest like this. Begin to push on this side here and compress in here as I step down, and then step through. A full compression on the leg. And dragging this one out here, up off the ground, so this one's going to start to come up here. And then what I might do is begin to reverse my curve at the butt end here as I bring my leg possibly up and over this way here. The belly would collapse over top of this. This part's coming down and over. This part goes up and around this way in the step forward. And then I would snap my upper body forward like this as I begin to bring my leg around and forward to bring it down onto the ground. Full compression on this part here. This part snapping right over. And then beginning to reverse it back out again as my hips come down and forward and I plant my foot here. Get a big pull here, so this is going to reverse down this way as the leg comes down into this position, and then plant hard there as I pull this all up. A little bit of the heel on the back side, so this would be the back of the character here. So this part's coming up and over while this part here lands down. And then I'd probably cut at that point there. Right. So those would be all my basic body shapes to give me the overall action of the throw from beginning to end. And what I can do now is I can set these aside and begin to block out these poses now in full size, so that I can now get a sense of whether or not the character is going to animate properly. So I begin my actual keying. So now I have all my primary keys and breakdowns completed throughout the whole piece according to my thumbnails. So I start off with A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, oops, M, and then N. Fan them out a little bit more. Okay. So what I do now is I take a pencil test of this and rough test the timing. See how it moves all the way through, adjust any proportions and scale issues that I've got going on, because I know the character gets a little bit big in the middle. So I would go through and fix those things up, and then tighten the drawings up and drop in any in-betweens, and then I would come back and add the head on, which I'll do next.